the best weapon in Stardew Valley is the Galaxy Sword. Or is it? From this video you will find out. Now, first of all, before update 1.1, the Galaxy Sword was obviously the best weapon in the game. But then they added some new weapons, so let's take a look at those. In Stardew Valley, there are 3 types of melee weapons: swords, clubs, and daggers. They all have different strengths and weaknesses, and they all have a different special ability. Swords have a sweeping attack, they are medium-sized, and their special ability is blocking. You take less damage, the enemy takes a small bit of damage, gets knocked back a bit. That's what blocking does. The clubs are long weapons. Usually they deal higher damage than swords. They are usually also a bit slower, and their special ability is an arrow effect attack. It deals damage to all the enemies around you. Daggers are the smallest of weapons. They also usually deal smaller amounts of damage than swords and clubs of the same level. Their special ability is that you get to attack multiple times without cooldown. So when you activate it, your character attacks the enemy in front of you multiple times in a quick succession. One big disadvantage of daggers is that you can only use them to attack the tile immediately in front of you. Unlike with swords and clubs, which have a sweeping attack, so you can attack the enemies of the tile in front of you and also the tiles next to it probably. Weapon length in this game is also important, because how long visibly is your weapon? That is going to be the range of your attack. Longer weapons are usually better because you can attack more enemies with the same attack. So these are the 3 types of weapons in general. All of them have a Galaxy version in the 1.1 update. So let's look at those. First is our good old friend, the Galaxy Sword. It has a damage between 60 and 80. It has a critical strike chance of 0.02. But guess what? All of the Galaxy weapons have a critical strike chance of 0.02. So I'm not going to really care about this stat. There are some weapons that have higher critical strike chance. If you want to be the kind of guy that uses the critical hits, then go for something else. A stat that is important about the Galaxy Sword is its speed, which is +4, making it the fastest of all Galaxy weapons. The next one is the Galaxy Hammer. It has a damage between 70 and 90, and it has a speed of +2, so it is still faster than a normal weapon that has no speed bonuses. And there is one more interesting stat that it has, and that is its weight. It has a weight of +5. Now, weight in this game is basically the weapon's ability to knock back enemies. We saw that the sword had no weight bonuses, so it knocks back the enemies the normal amount. But this Galaxy Hammer knocks back the enemies a lot compared to the sword. That is something important to consider. There are some enemies against whom knockback is very useful, for example the shadow brutes in the mines or the mummies in the skull caverns. And there are enemies against whom knockback is very not useful in my opinion. In fact, it makes it more difficult to kill them. And I'm talking about ghosts, obviously, because even with a normal weapon, you knock back ghosts quite a bit, and they are very slow. They are coming to you very slowly. So the more you knock them back, the slower it is going to be to kill them. And then there is the third weapon, the Galaxy Dagger. It has a damage between 30 and 40. It has a +1 speed bonus, so it is a little bit faster than a normal weapon, but it is still the slowest of the Galaxy weapon. And I'm stressing that because I would like to point out that this is even slower than the hammer. And it also has a weight of +5, just like the hammer. So this is a small weapon that knocks back enemies a lot and is pretty slow too. Now, there is one thing that is obvious about the 3 weapons, is that the Galaxy Dagger is not the best. It has a lower damage than either of the other 2. If you want a weapon that knocks back enemies a lot, you can go for the hammer, and And if you want a fast weapon, you go for the sword. It would be interesting if, for example, the dagger was a really fast weapon that also knocks back enemies, because that would maybe compensate for its low damage. But it's not. It's slower than the sword and the hammer, and it has lower damage. So the real question is the sword or the hammer better? And in my opinion, normally it would depend on your fighting preference and which enemies you are fighting. Obviously, I already mentioned that if you were fighting ghosts you don't want knockback, you would probably want to take the sword. If you are fighting mummies, you would probably want to take the hammer because you do want knockback. However, there is one more thing to consider, and that is the special abilities. I personally almost never use the special ability of the sword, which is blocking. However, the hammer's special ability, which is damaging multiple enemies around you, is extremely useful, and it is also glitched in the game currently. And the way the glitch works is if you press the left and right mouse buttons in quick succession, the game will think that you used your special ability multiple times and it will deal damage according to this, which means that you are going to deal a ton of damage immediately. So if you are going to use this glitch, then definitely go with the hammer. Otherwise, it's really up to how you like to fight and what enemies you are fighting. I personally prefer the sword in this situation. But there is one more thing that we haven't talked about yet, and that is the highest damage weapon in the entire game, which is not the sword. It's not even the hammer. It is the Master Slingshot. The highest damage melee weapon was the Galaxy Hammer, which is true. But the highest damage weapon in the entire game is actually a ranged weapon, the Master Slingshot. The way slingshots work in this game is you can fill them with ammo. Slingshot description in-game says that they require stones for ammo. That's a lie. You can put a bunch of things into your slingshot as ammo. You can put in all the ores, coal, fruits, wood, a bunch of stuff. All of the different ammos have a different damage. The highest damage ammo being iridium ore. With the iridium ore ammo, the Master Slingshot deals between 50 and 202 points of damage, which makes it the highest damage weapon in the game. Now, does this make this the best weapon in this game? In my opinion, not. And that is because of a factor we haven't talked about yet, which is ease of use. This sword is the easiest to use. You go to the enemy, start clicking, and then you defeat them. The hammer is a bit more difficult to use effectively, it's a bit slower. You sometimes want to use the special ability. It knocks back enemies more, so you need to account for that, obviously. But the slingshots, they're very difficult to use in this game. The way you control them is just really awkward. And even though they deal the highest damage in the entire game, I almost never use them. But I wanted to tell you about them in case you are just better at playing video games than me and you can use the slingshot. So that's the answer to the video. If you want an easy to use strong weapon, go with the sword. If you want the strongest melee weapon in the game, go with the hammer. And if you can use the slingshots, then go with the slingshot with iridium ore ammo. See you in the next video, like this one, about how to prepare for Skull Cavern. See you next time.